Here we go. We are live for another episode of the Eric Crocker Show. Of course, it's Wednesday, so we're joined by the lovely Coach Desi. We're going to be talking to all things pertaining to the San Francisco 49ers. We will touch on their victory over Philly because I haven't gotten Coach Desi's thoughts on it. MV Purdy, is it time to really start pushing the will he be MVP? I got some thoughts on how I felt like through week 5. I think it was through week 5. I started kind of saying like, man, how is he not kind of in the MVP conversation? I think right now he's kicked that door in and he's the leading guy according to Vegas. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the 49ers against the Seahawks. We got another bird to take down. Matter of fact, bird this week, bird next week with Baltimore, but one game at a time. All right. But good stuff, good stuff. Of course, I have to let you guys know that this show is brought to you and powered by Underdog Fantasy. So make sure you go to underdogfantasy.com or download the Underdog Fantasy app and use promo code Crocky so we can make us some money. And last night and the night before, we done made what? We made 300. We made 375 last night, me and my subscribers. The night before that, we hit for over $300. I mean, like we had a little rut, I would say, Saturday and Sunday. We weren't really making money, but we done made some money the last couple of days, and definitely a lot of money over the last 2 weeks. So download the app or go to underdogfantasy.com. Use promo code Crocky. They'll double your deposit up to $100. All right. Coach Desi, how you feeling today?
That's how I'm feeling. All week long, after that game, I was just feeling it. I wish I knew some Philly fans. I have a neighbor down the street, but I don't know him that well to be talking smack. But it was a great game. Even the hubby came in and supported the 49ers, and Mom was here. We talked about going out to a 49er meetup to watch the game, but no, I need the energy I had. Woo! I needed to be home. Like, there is no way I had to. If I were in public, I wouldn't have been able to finish the game. It was amazing. The first part of it was obviously the first quarter rough. I was struggling to figure out why we weren't all the plays seemed to go to the right, and we've got Trent Williams on the left. I didn't understand why we didn't go to the left.
I haven't heard that take before. Like, so again, everything I've heard is, why are they throwing? Why are they doing this? But there were some runs trying to get guys on the edge, and some of those things didn't work. But I haven't really heard anyone kind of point out that, hey, man, some of these players are going to the right. Why don't we go behind our big dog, Trent Williams?
I mean, I literally was yelling at the TV. I was like, why are we not using the best tackle in the NFL? We need to go to the left. I don't know if that was like drawn up, maybe like mental game, because, that's the side that Purdy got injured on. I don't know if there was any psychology behind it. I'm probably overanalyzing it, but truly game time, I was like, going to the right. Like, obviously, guess what? We're going to go to the right. Why don't we go to the left? So that was my big thing and the frustration that I had the beginning stages. And then we just turned it all the way up. I was on my Dre Greenlaw, that whole thing. I mean, I was like, come fight me. Come, let's do this. Like, the whole thing, everything you wanted in a game like that was just epic.
I have my bros here, my brother BJ, my brother Donald. One's a Steeler fan, one's a Cowboy fan. And the Steeler fan, he doesn't care. Like, he likes to see the 49ers win because he likes to talk trash to the Cowboy fans. He kind of hates them, thinks they're delusional. And we got to talk a lot of trash, obviously with the 49ers, dominating the Dallas Cowboys. And the Cowboys, last time they played Philadelphia, Cowboys took an L. And my brother, who's a Cowboy fan here, I got to show him, like, this is how you dominate Philly. This is how you beat the Philadelphia Eagles. There are a lot of Eagle fans. And again, y'all, we're going to turn the page in a second. We just have to kind of go over this because I haven't talked about these things with Coach Desi. But there are a lot of Eagle fans trying to downplay this game. There are a lot of Eagle fans who are saying that, this was really y'all Super Bowl. Wait, hold on. The 49ers have went to, 3 straight NFC championship games? Three championship games and a Super Bowl in 3 out of the last 5 years or 4 years, whatever it is, like something crazy like that, right? So out of all the teams that are gonna, like, you can't say that to the 49ers, like, this was your Super Bowl. Like, you can't do that to the 49er fan base. You can do that to, maybe if it's the Washington Commanders, a team that has 0 playoff success. Maybe if it's the New York Giants, and it's like, hey, we finally beat the Philadelphia Eagles. But who you can't do that to is a team that actually goes deep in playoffs, like goes on playoff runs. Our expectations are conference championship at the very least. So I feel like there were a lot of fans who were trying to minimize the victory after everybody hyped this game up all week. Oh, we're going to show them. We're going to do this. And, they talked all that trash in the offseason. Debo Samuel, yeah, we're going to shut him up. The players talking and all that. And lo and behold, 49 players backed up exactly what they said. Hey, we felt like if we didn't lose our quarterback to start that game, we would have blew him out.
Absolutely.
Debo called him trash. Yes. And next thing you know, again to the game, the guy he called trash actually gave up 0 catches, 0 targets. And that's James Bradbury. But Debo called him trash and went off for 100 and something yards, 3 touchdowns, and they dominated them. So do you think that the 49ers, and I guess I'll ask this question, but Stephen A. Smith, he kind of went on this rift a little bit. Did you see that?
I did.
Did y'all see that? You know what? Hold on. We're going to play a couple things today. All right, let's start with Stephen A. Smith and what he said. And then I just want to get your thoughts on if you think, if your thoughts align with Stephen A. Smith. All right. I gotta find his.
You're bringing that up. I
was not prepared for this one. Hold on. Let's see.
Yeah. While you're getting that, I want to say I was listening to the Warner House. That's my new favorite pod. I always like to hear what he has to say following the games. And it was interesting because prior to the game, I think it was the 49ers account was showing all the players showing up. Did you see they were all wearing black?
Loved it.
There. So Fred Warner was saying that was totally not planned. Like they showed up and just that's how equal their mindset is that they all decided to wear black without ever having a conversation about doing that. I was like, that's just so awesome.
All right, here we go. Let's hear what Stephen A. Smith had to say about this 49ers victory over the Philadelphia Eagles.
A lot of people don't want to admit this. I'm just looking around because I've got to duck for cover what I'm about to say. But here it is. Do you realize that the Philadelphia Eagles NFC Championship from last season was delegitimized Sunday afternoon? Oh, Stephen A., why would you say such a thing? Because when a team shows up in an NFC Championship game looking lights out, and they lose not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 quarterbacks in one season. It got to a point where Debo Samuels and Christian McCaffrey were lining up behind center. They had no one to throw the football. And so as a result, you're the San Francisco 49ers. You know what you're thinking in your head? You know what you're thinking in your heart? We should have been there, not them. We're thinking they're fraudulent. We're thinking we're going to whip their ass when we see them. The days leading up to the game, they chirped and talked smack to the Philadelphia Eagles. They basically said, we coming to kick your ass. So for them to actually turn around and do it, what do you say? Not a damn word. A lot of people don't want to admit this. I don't want to.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. So that's the first thing that we're sharing this morning. And again, your thoughts on how important of a game this is. Do you believe that, you know what, great victory, great win, but it doesn't mean anything? Or do you think this is kind of setting the stage for maybe something bigger down the line?
This is validation. I mean, this is just, we wanted this just to be able to say that they're calling us the 40-winers, whatever. I mean, there was a little bit of that, but you can't help it, right? Like literally we've never seen anything like that happen in NFL history. No one's ever lost that many quarterbacks to make it to the NFC Championship game. I mean, we were just riding this incredible wave, and it's a big letdown when that's the reason why you lose, right? And we all felt very confident that is the reason why we lose. So when you come into a game this season, you have that opportunity to validate what you and your heart felt. I mean, it's personal. It's personal. It's something where I think the fan base felt that way, whether or not the players wanted to say it. You're going to have that edge. I mean, we've all been part of something where you kind of feel that way. So this meant a lot for validation of that, but also in expectation of where we're going, right? To be able to come in there, everybody in the NFL is saying, this is the number one team, Eagles, Eagles, Eagles. And we just kind of was like, okay, you can think that until we show up in their house and take care of business and do our thing and show you what we're really about. So I just love that. I love, this is just great, man. I'm just riding this wave all the way out. This energy is so good. I just love it. So yeah, I'm feeling the Stephen A comments. How about you?
Oh, I love it. And I think that, it just brought a kind of different perspective. And I started thinking about it. And it's like, yeah, I don't want to say delegitimizes, which I've never even heard that word before. But I'm not saying it does that to their victory, but it does show that there is something to what the players were saying, which is if we have our quarterback, we kick their ass.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's some, players that kind of move around a little bit. And it's not like it's 100% the same Philadelphia Eagles team. But this is a good Eagles team. It's not like, oh, they played in that conference championship game. They turned around and, oh, they're just not good this year. It's like, no, they're 10-1. They're just as good as they were last year. And they're playing a lot of close games and whatnot. But it's like, hey, it doesn't matter whatever you guys are. We felt a certain way about how we can play. And I think the 49ers definitely put that on full display in this game. So I'm not going to go as far as to say, like 187 here says, Eagles are frauds. We knew it. I'm not going to say they're a fraud, but there is one person in here. Shout out to my guy, Chris Roscoe's. And Chris says he's been saying all along, like, hey, their defense is trash. 49ers are going to dominate them. And I started to feel more and more like that leading up to the game. And I think that's why people saw me start to get more and more hyped. I started posting my little videos. If you don't follow me on Twitter, at Eric_Crocker. But leading up to the game, I started talking. And I started, hey, we're going bird hunting. And we're almost there. And I even put the Batman music on one of the guys from The Simpsons. I like to put, he's in that little carport and or parking garage, and he's kind of in the shadows or whatever. And then I put the Batman music on there because, first of all, this last Batman, terrific. But I love a lot of the music behind it. Anyways, once I started it started getting closer and closer, I started getting a little bit louder and louder because I started to get more confidence that not only the 49ers will win, I think 49ers are going to kick their ass. And when the 49ers were down 6-0, I said, oh, looked at my brother, about to blow him out. And they're like, what? You guys going to lose this game? Blah, blah. I'm like, look, when you come out and you play as poor of a first quarter as the 49ers did, like that is as bad as they'll play. And the Eagles, I felt like they threw their haymakers where their defense, that's as good as you're going to play all game. Your offense, you drove down the field, got 2 field goals. Oh, 49ers going to blow them out. And my brother was like, nah, man, blah, blah, blah. And lo and behold, 49ers, 6 straight touchdowns.
We beat
6 straight touchdowns.
2 quarters. We beat them in 2 quarters and set ourselves back going into that second quarter. But we beat them in that second and third quarter. A game could have ended there, right? I mean, it was done. It was a wrap completely.
Complete domination. Now, there were a lot of people, and this is going to get us into our next topic. There were a lot of people that were upset with the early play calls. They did not like that Kyle Shanahan came out and said, all right, we're going to throw the ball 3 straight times or whatever. And then, the next drive, it was a 3 and out as well. So he had 2 straight 3 and out drives. People were so upset. Why did he come out? Why is he throwing the ball? And I tweeted this out. I probably should bring my tweet up. I'm not, because I already got this video prepared to play. It's 3 minutes long, but y'all going to watch all 3 minutes of it because it's great stuff. All right. But I said, look, you can't have it both ways. You can't tell me how great of a quarterback you feel Brock Purdy is and then get upset and throw a tantrum because your head coach is putting the ball in a guy's hands that you're telling me is the MVP. Yeah. And that has played lights out and is number 1 in all these categories. So I'm not saying that, never run the ball. But if Kyle had 10 days to prepare for a game and his script coming out was, hey, we're going to do these things to set up the quick game and we're going to get things going, it was just poor execution from the start. But don't be like, you can't get this mad. You can't get this mad at Kyle if Brock is who you think he is. Now, me personally, somebody that never panicked, and the tweets are there. I told them, like, chill out. Like, the 49ers going to be fine. Brock is going to be fine. Kyle's going to be fine. Offense is going to get going. But this was just, why I was able to do that? Because Brock is who I think Brock is, a damn good quarterback. So they came out, hey, we're going to throw the ball. We're trying to get these quick game things. That's what it looked like. Ball got batted down. Then he ran into a sack, and then he threw one. It's fine. He's going to settle down. Team is going to be fine. I saw a lot of people panic. So there's a lot of people out there that tell me Brock is MVP, Brock's this and that. I saw how y'all panicked, and y'all got mad because the coach didn't run the ball to start off. If you are one out there right now that thinks that the coach has to run the ball. For your quarterback to have success, he's not as good as you think he is. But he is as good as I think he is, and I think he did a terrific job. Go ahead.
Well, and we talked about last week about how the Philadelphia's defense is not great pass. I mean, the pass defense is not great. So it made sense that it came out throw. I think it was interesting because we've seen all year long such overuse of Christian McCaffrey that it seemed a little off that it didn't get in his hands once in those 2 drives, right? And so that may have, we're used to that. Him and Debo usually get the first run. Wasn't there. So people don't like change. It's a little bit, it's tense. Everybody's in their feels. It is what it is. And like I said, I mean, there was part of me that was like, we need to go left. Why are we not going left? Why is, and so even if I saw a play go left, I think I would have not made that comment. But all of us, we're all just like, we're ready for that slugfest. And like when it doesn't happen right out of the gate, there is, we have lost a few games, right? We've lost a few, and we're in the link. All of us have PTSD from being in there, right? So the first 2 drives already we're holding our breaths. I don't know, maybe it was just me, but six plays in, and your quarterback's done for the season is tough. And so coming back into that same environment, I know with me as a fan, I was just like, okay, dear baby Jesus, nobody get injured. Let's just get through this game and get the smackdown that I know that we can do. So good stuff.
Definitely. Now, I started off and I talked a little bit about kind of Kyle and Brock and how Kyle views Brock and how everybody's telling me he's MVP, right? Like he's MVP, but y'all got mad because he ran the ball to start the game. But I think he's fine, and I think he's playing at an extremely high level. And nothing backs that more than this video that I saw you tweet out this morning. All right, so you guys bear with us here. We got 3 minutes of Purdy love going on. Here we go.
I've been trying to say it this year, and even when Brock had his 3 games struggling, can we please, and I think people are starting to come on this train with me, can we please put Brock Purdy as the front runner for the MVP right now?
Well, Vegas already did, so
just because Vegas is doing it does not mean that everyone in the comments, everywhere, everyone that's watching this right now, whatever, I don't think a lot of people agree with that. Be like, oh, the weapons. I came prepared today.
Tell me why Brock Purdy should be MVP.
I never do this.
Get in the fucking lab.
Brock Purdy leads the NFL in QBR, passer rating, yards per completion, touchdown percentage, completion percentage, air yards per attempt. Let's get into that stat for a sec, all right?
Let's get into it.
Brock Purdy's 9.59 yards per attempt through 12 games is the most in NFL history. The other 4 guys that have the highest, like the 4 guys right after him, 2011 Aaron Rodgers won the MVP. 2004 Peyton Manning won the MVP. 1988 Boomer Esiason won the MVP. 1984, Dan Marino won the MVP. Just saying, that's quite interesting. Brock Purdy is on pace to throw for 4,500 yards, 33 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Only 8 players have ever done that in NFL history. 3 won MVP, 3 are Tom Brady, 1 is Aaron Rodgers, 1 is Patrick Mahomes.
Damn!
The top 8 passer rating games this season. Brock Purdy is one of only 2 people to have a perfect passer rating this year, 158.3. The rest of them, Brock Purdy has 4 of the top 8 passer rating games this season alone. No one else has 2. And I don't want to hear about all that yak bullshit, yards after catch bullshit. Don't fucking give me that. I know Brock's got great weapons. So does every other great fucking quarterback in the league. The Niners are 11th in team yards after catch in the league this year. The Chiefs are first. We never give Patrick Mahomes shit about yak.
Yards after a catch accounts for 48.5% of Brock Purdy's passing yards this season. The average NFL starting quarterback has 47% of their yards come from yak. The average for an NFL MVP over the last 10 years was 48%.
So what's Brock at again?
48.5.
48. Oh, interesting.
But here's where it gets crazy. We freaked out about Patrick Mahomes, right? Last year, when Patrick Mahomes had his insane MVP season, you know what his yak number?
Oh, what was his yak number? What was it?
54%.
Woo! I'll bet you it was even higher when he had fucking Tyreek.
So we were
Hill
talking
on
about
board,
him
too.
not having weapons, but clearly his weapons were making shit happen.
Patrick Mahomes, and granted, he's amazing, but using the yak argument against Brock Purdy is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Let's just peel back the curtain on the argument of someone saying, oh, well, he has these weapons. Because I got very triggered as a Tua fan when people say about Tyreek. Yep. So you're telling me that the quarterback's job is to throw through his weapons, and those weapons are supposed to do something crazy.
When they get the ball.
When
and
they get
perform.
the ball. So if they don't do that, naturally the team sucks. But if they do that,
then the quarterback's not that good. It's because he's a beneficiary of.
I think it's just
Make it make fucking sense.
It's a ridiculous argument to say that,
Right.
the yak. Bro, yak is part of the game. All right?
Yak
That
attack.
stat proves it.
Yak
so
attack.
Give Brock Purdy some flowers.
It's ridiculous though. Like if Brock Purdy was drafted in the first 3 rounds,
Yep, I agree
last
with that.
year,
I agree with that.
people are talking about him as a top 5 quarterback, at least top 10 quarterback in the league.
If he keeps this up and he goes and wins MVP, there's no doubt about it that Brock Purdy is a top 5 quarterback. I don't know how you don't put him if he wins the MVP. He'd be the first ever MVP to not be in the top 5 quarterbacks. It's insane. Want to see the full argument?
All right. So good stuff there. A lot of praise for Brock. I have heard one other side to this. All right, and I thought that this guy he kind of was saying all this stuff. I'm like, system quarterback, this and that. He's saying all these things. I'm like, I kind of disagree with a lot of this stuff, but he did say one thing that I felt made a good point, and I think it was lost in everything else because everybody just disagreed with everything else the guy said. All right, so first of all, that was great stuff right there. Point out, you can't argue with any of that stuff. Like that was awesome stuff, and he's just talking about like this is how high of a level this guy's playing at. The pushback from another person that I heard was Brock, and 49ers fans, y'all said this as well. All right, but he was saying when the 49ers went on a 3-game skid, and obviously you didn't have Trent, you didn't have Debo, but he said if your quarterback is the most important person, then why couldn't he function without a Debo and a Trent when you still have all these other guys? Like you still have CMC, you still have Ayuk, you still have Kittle, and you weren't able to score more than 17 points. So who's really the most valuable player on the 49ers? Is it your quarterback who, when those guys went down, everybody said, he's not playing well because he doesn't have Debo. He don't got Debo out there. He don't have so is it Debo? Is it Brock? Is it Trent? And that was the only pushback that I heard that I felt like kind of said, you know what? When everything is great, he's amazing. If you take out one of those guys and he still has all these other guys, I felt like that was the one thing where I felt like that is a good argument. So you could touch on any of it. The video that we just posted, obviously you put that out there on Twitter. That was amazing. And I think that makes the best argument for Brock to be MVP. Do you have anything to say to what I said about maybe these other guys might be more important to his success if he can't play without a Debo Samuel?
In the words of Dan Orlovsky, context matters. I love when he says that. So context is Brock had a concussion in those two of those 3 games. It's not clean data. It's not like, oh, well, he didn't have Trent and Debo, so he should have been able to. Well, he didn't have Trent and Debo, and he also had a concussion, right? And the second game after that was like not even a full week later after that concussion, he's back playing. So you guys have heard me, if you listen every week, I've said I still think there was some residual from that concussion. So there's that part of it. The other part is I still was very vocal at that time that Trent Williams was the bigger piece of missing, right? Trent Williams, I just appreciate what he brings to that team. There's pillars. I don't know that you can peg everything into one person because we saw what it looked like without a Brock Purdy in the NFC Championship game. So don't tell me he's not valuable, right? So it all matters. There's certain pillars that make the offense be what it is, right? There's things that separate us, like a fingerprint, if you will. And I've said that I think Debo, who is his favorite target, Brock Purdy has said that. I mean, he didn't really want us to like pinpoint one person, but he does enjoy throwing to Debo. And this was last year. Maybe it's now becoming more like Brandon Ayuk because he seems to be very comfortable throwing to him. But you put Debo, Trent, and Brock and CMC, all 4 of those. I mean, it's really tough because we do have a lot of weapons, but the line, the quarterback are my first 2. So Trent and Brock, in my mind, are the first 2. And then after that, it's CMC, Debo, and then Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle in there, as well. But that's kind of number 1, not clean data. Number 2, I think O-line matters, quarterback matters. And then after that, we've seen what this offense looks like with Trent Williams and with Jimmy Garoppolo.
We have.
The same
I do
thing,
want to say, in those games, right, in the 3-game losing streak, I actually am one that I didn't think he played poorly. Now, he played like ass against the Cleveland Browns. And then that was the one game he actually led a drive to potentially win, but we missed a field goal, right? But in the other two games, in the Vikings game and in the Bengals game, I actually didn't think that Brock played poorly. I think he didn't finish the job, you know? And I think for me, that still hangs in the back of my head, not in the sense of is he good or is he an MVP candidate or anything like that. Like, I think he's all of those things. It's for the 49ers to win the Super Bowl because I know what they look like when they're humming. Like when they're humming, we just saw that. And more times than not, they are humming. But my co-host, Brian Peacock, he calls the 49ers like an amazing front running team. Like when things are rolling, they humble teams. So far, when I've seen them in that game, like that Vikings game, when now your defense is not playing well, then you figure out a way to do a little more, like offensive. And I felt like they fell short partly because of a concussion. When you watch them against the Bengals, and again, your defense is not playing great. But then they get a stop, and then you turn the ball over, and then you turn over again, then you turn over again, and then they call that turnover back, but then you turn over again. Those are the things right there when you're in those moments and assholes get a little tight, then you pull it out. And I would like to see them, and I'm not saying I don't want to see close games. I would love for them to blow out everybody.
Yeah.
I just know to win it all, more times than not, you're going to get in that kind of moment. Like there's going to be a game that gets real tight. And how do you respond? And so far, in those late games, in those moments, the 49ers have not done well. And they've only had a couple opportunities, 3 opportunities with that.
Yeah.
But they lost all 3 games. So I definitely feel like, Brock, real deal, as Kyle said earlier. Offense, I mean, they can beat anybody by 30 points. I mean, just the way that they drum the Eagles, the way they drum the Cowboys, that's not really normal.
Yeah.
But they are that good. When you look at those L's and just how it happened, that's still like in the back of my head, like you're gonna have to pull out a win like that to win it all.
Yeah.
And so far they have a tough time doing that. So that is my one and only worry of this team. Defensively, they're fine. Everybody complains about the offensive line. I do think that because of Brock's skill set, it kind of offset what to me isn't a great offensive line. And really more teams than not. I mean, Eagles have a great O-line. Like their O-line, really good.
Oh.
They're gonna one off. Like most teams don't have a terrific offensive line like that. But more teams are trying to figure out, like, okay, how do we overcome maybe not having a great offensive line? I think Brock Purdy does a terrific job of that with the 49ers. But in those moments, I hope they blow out everybody, but I know it's coming. Like I know there's going to be that game. It might be Baltimore, and you're in the Bay. You're playing against Baltimore. Baltimore's cooking right now too, and if it comes down to at the end of the game, like, all right, offense, defense is struggling a little bit to stop Lamar Jackson. What are you going to do to go above and beyond to put them away? And that's why I would like to see that one thing.
I can understand. I can stand that outlook. For me, I feel like if he wasn't injured, I'd feel that way. I get that. But to me, I still, again, we were kind of banged up. I think Brock. So I could see where you would go with that.
And that's not a Brock thing either, because I see people like, oh, Brock, everybody has a lot. I'm talking about the 49ers team.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now, the Brock part of it was when you lost this guy, but you still got all these amazing guys. And then now everybody's saying, no, you need these guys for you to be successful. I think that was the guy's points. Like, well, if he's the MVP, at some point when he's getting, like, you got to overcome that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was his point. But my point isn't so much about Brock. It's really just the team.
Yeah.
And under Kyle, that whole thing about, like, if he's falling down in the fourth quarter by 7 points or whatever, like, he just does not come back. Like, just does not win. Like, that isn't a crazy stat for a team that I feel like is loaded and has been loaded for many years. So that is the very interesting thing. And again, I come on here. I understand. Look, we're all 49er fans. And anybody that follows me on Twitter during the game, like that last game, Cowboys game, y'all know, like, yeah, Croc's really big time 49er fan, right? But I come on here and I have to make us think a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta bring like some kind of different perspective. I can't just come on here and just best team in the league. What? All right. Nice talking to you, Coach Desi. You know, like no, let's look at some other side of things. Like
it's okay.
let's talk about some things that are a little bit more uncomfortable for us to talk about. Like, let's not just try to sweep these moments under the rug and act like it didn't happen. Like it did happen. And I don't think anybody expected this 49ers team to go undefeated. But for me, it's the way that they've lost and the way that they win. And when they win, they just demolish these teams. When they've lost, it was tight moments where it's just not perfect. Can you overcome it? And I think that's still a question mark for, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's not for me, y'all. Just so you know, I'm good. But you brought up Baltimore. Y'all know my husband is a Baltimore Ravens fan.
Ooh.
It's on Christmas Day. Will my marriage make it into 2024? That's the topic when we get to Ravens week. So I barely made it through the Super Bowl that year.
I'm more worried about your reaction to a loss as opposed to his reaction to a loss.
So true. It's so true. It's all me.
I think you'll take it a little harder.
I would definitely take it really hard.
We got baby my Mira in the chat says y'all gonna be fighting.
Yes.
What does that look like? You know, what does that look like when you guys are kind of sitting there and you know you got to watch this game? Your team plays against each other because this has happened several times. And gosh, I feel like the 49ers are kind of on the short end of the stick a lot in these Baltimore Raven 49ers matchups, especially since like Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. We can't watch. Correction, I can't watch the game with him.
Wow.
He can watch it with. Well, he doesn't really like watching me. I'm too much. I'm extra. I'm way extra. So that's, yeah. I'll be watching it in a different place, probably all together.
All right. I got Gary in the chat, and obviously I put the link in the chat. So if anybody wants to come on, give you a couple minutes, tell us, you know, just. So everybody got about 2-3 minutes to do that. I got a really busy morning. All right, but Gary says, why? He says, why not, Croc? Every other content creator praise even when their team plays poorly. You know, I think for the 49ers, they play great more times than they play poorly. And it's not even, you know, because you see some people that go like way off and are like super overly critical of the team. Matter of fact, if you listen to Locked On 49er, I think Brian Peacock and I, when everybody else is like super high, Peacock and I do a good job of saying like, you know, hey, let's look at these things and, you know, see where it goes. And when everybody's like super low and they're super upset at the 49ers, we're like, wait, hold on, look, they did this well. So we try to balance out the fan base a little bit. You know, that's why I Locked On 49er.
Way to manage our emotions there, Croc. I appreciate that.
We try. It is a little difficult. It can be a little difficult. All right, here we go. We have Eric coming on. Eric with a K. All right, Eric with a K coming on first. Oh, hold on. I'm setting the timer today. We got 3 minutes. All right, we got 3 minutes. So hold on. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button.
How do you feel about Dak being the second option for MVP?
So I've talked about this, and we've had this conversation on here a little bit on the episode on Monday with Ashley. I have brought up that I feel like Brock Purdy, and I've said this before, I feel like Brock Purdy in the 49ers offense is functioning at a higher level than anyone else is functioning in their offense. Someone asked if I would trade Brock for Dak straight up. And I said no, because I don't think the 49ers offense and the scheme fits Dak and what he is. I think that, and we kind of pulled up Brock Purdy's scouting report. Brock Purdy's scouting report, and what they said Brock Purdy needs is exactly what he got with the 49ers. A play action run team, offense that's based on play action, timing, and rhythm that can negate not having the biggest of arms. Like, it was like, get the ball out of his hands. Everything that the 49ers do with Brock it was the 49ers, like that's a staple of their offense. Like that's what Kyle wants. So Kyle was able to maximize an ability of a guy that had these other traits that were like, oh, now you're able to rock and play at a high level. Like if the 49ers knew they were getting this, then they would have drafted him higher, most likely, right? So they didn't know, but they did know, hey, we think this guy that everybody else is passing over has these certain traits that we actually value in our, Nick Mullins, right? Like Nick Mullins had these kind of traits. That's why Nick Mullins is still a backup quarterback in the NFL right now. Like not because he has a big arm or super athletic. It's like, no, it's here and certain other things. He just couldn't do it as high at a level as Brock. But now you're seeing that. All right. So anyways, did that. I said, I don't know. And I could be wrong. I don't know if a team, the Anaheim Dragons, all right, the Anaheim Dragons, new franchise startup team, would they start their team if they had to choose between Brock and Dak? Would they start with Brock or would they start with Dak? And I said, I think right now in this moment, most people would still start with Dak. That's not a slight at Brock. I think the more we just continue to see from Brock, then it might be a no-brainer as Brock Purdy. But I do think like if they had to choose right now, and it's like, well, you don't get Kyle and you don't get all these other things. You just get Coach Desi as your offensive coordinator and Eric Crocker as your defensive coordinator. You know what I'm saying? They might be like, okay, maybe we go with Dak. But that's it. I mean, we're splitting hairs there. So that's just what it feels like. Now, Dak, he just won Offensive Player of the Month. Like Dak is playing at a very high level. And he's neck and neck. There are a lot of categories right there with Brock. He's right there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like completion percentage. I think I saw Brock leads the NFL. It's like 70%.3 or something like that. 70.3%. Like Dak is like 70.2. Like you know what I'm saying? Right there. Dak has more touchdowns. They've thrown the same amount of interceptions, and Dak has thrown more passes. Like there are a lot of things where and if you look at how he's cooking in these last games, I talked about wanting to see that gritty side of things, right? Like that gritty game. I just watched the Seahawks put up 35 on the Dallas Cowboys defense. And Dak said, don't worry, I'm going to put up 41.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and throw 4 touchdowns, 0 interception. We're throwing the ball down the field. We're doing all these things. Now, again, you're splitting hairs, but it is very close. It is very, very close. All right, here we go. We got Eric with a K, Eric Wallace, not Eric Dane, Eric Wallace coming on. Eric, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. How y'all doing today?
Good.
Oh, we're doing good.
Big Seahawks fan here. Actually, I'm not as confident about this game as you guys are because I feel in your house, I just think it's gonna be San Francisco winning. Inside San Francisco, I just if it was in Seattle, I'd say maybe, but y'all already did that part in Seattle, so yeah. And then what's up?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I think that it's going to be hard for you guys to win, for the game to be in Santa Clara.
Yeah. And then Dak, he impressed me a lot in last week. I mean, when he was needed the most to come up big, he definitely came up big. And I just feel that if it's one of those situations again, I just think Brock is going to do, if it comes down to it, I just think the Brock Purdy is going to do it exactly what Dak did, which is just bone and bonus some more because he's good. He's very good.
Yeah, and so is Mooney Ward being able to stay on DK Metcalf. So I expect Ward to he's going to shut down DK again, I think, this week.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric, real quick. I would like to know how you guys feel about DK Metcalf. I feel like it's kind of been a little bit of a roller coaster ride, kind of up and down. But then you watch him against the Cowboys and just go all 3 touchdowns, kind of go crazy. What's the feel around Seattle with DK Metcalf? That's a guy who at times has kind of terrorized the 49ers a little bit.
Well, I don't know like what everybody else is thinking about DK, but me personally, the last game he did a great job, but I'm not a big DK guy because of all the extra stuff that he does.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Eric, man, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for calling in.
No problem.
All right. Shout out to the other Eric with a K. I see Frank in here, and Frank says Mahomes didn't have an offensive line in 2020 Super Bowl, and they got blown out. So is he not a good quarterback? I will say the interesting thing with that, it wasn't even that his O-line wasn't good. It's like leading up to that game, he lost like every starting offensive lineman. Like they lost. It was like in the postseason, this guy got hurt, this guy got hurt, this guy got hurt, and all of a sudden he was playing with like 4 out of his 5 offensive linemen were backups, and could not overcome. All right, and he could not overcome that. So, yeah, that was tough. I think Mahomes has shown at other times that he's fine. He's fine. All right, here we go. Coming on now, we got Mr. Blue Magic. Mr. Blue Magic, good morning. How you doing?
What's popping, Croc Coach? What's going on?
Hey.
I can't never miss coming on these. Shout out to the coach. Go follow, go support. Extremely intelligent. Love the sports science.
So we have talked a whole lot about the Philly game, and I know you're on the East Coast, so you get to feel all that. But you got the Seattle game coming up. What are your thoughts on 49ers versus Seattle? Like, do you think it's just going to be a repeat of what happened a couple of weeks ago? I have a little – I continue to say this. I just have so much respect for Pete Carroll that anytime the 49ers are going to play Seattle, and I know Russell Wilson isn't there anymore, but I just have something in the back of my head like, man, this team is –
It's because number one, it's a division game. Number two, these coaches know each other pretty well. Number three, Seattle's been banged up. I mean, Seattle's not a great team, but Seattle's not an easy route for anybody. You know what I'm saying? They play hard. I don't know what's going on with Geno and these receivers throughout the season. It's been a lot of off chemistry, like we're seeing with Pat and his receivers. But what I'm worried about is overlooking teams. Like we've done that every year. And this catches up to us in the playoffs. We can't overlook anybody. I don't care who it is. If we played Carolina right now, I don't want to overlook anybody. Because we're the only team in the league that has a legit resume when it comes to facing the top teams and how we've dogged them. You get it, you know what I'm saying? We have the tendency to get that bravado. Like, come on, this is Seattle. Your starting running back is just coming off an injury. What is he really going to do? How y'all really going? So we already smashed your receivers, held y'all to nothing. So that's the only thing I'm worried about. Like after the Cowboys win, that's literally the only thing I'm worried about. What I will say is I was so impressed with Kyle last week. Kyle was in his bag. That is when Kyle is in that mode, that's the genius Kyle. We give Kyle a lot of flack, and so I want to give him his flowers. But Croc, I've been waiting to say this to you. The unsung hero of that game was Steve Wilks. That was Steve Wilks. Everybody jumped on Steve Wilks when the offense was producing 17 points a game.
Hold on real quick. Pause the timer because I want to hear this right here. I'll pause the timer. It's about to go off, but I want to hear this. So go ahead.
Yeah, Croc, Croc, I come with the legit, not the
Bro,
fair
they
weather.
wanted him fired, bro. They wanted him fired because he had 2 games that weren't
Listen,
great.
what people don't remember, because we praised D'Amico and D'Amico. There was a point in time where D'Amico's defense played worse than we played in that 3-game stretch.
Preach. I wish I had some organs. Preach.
There was no problem with Wilks being in a booth first 5 games of the season.
No issue.
This 3-game slide now all of a sudden, and I said this, and I said this during that slide.
Yeah.
I said these players as well. Forget what Kyle said in the post conference interview. The players, Nick Bosa was playing like trash, but decided to use
like trash, but he wasn't
compared to his standards.
Yeah,
compared to his standards,
like, we need you to be great. You know what I'm saying? And he was,
and he wasn't
really
nowhere
good.
near. He wasn't even really good. He wasn't even really good.
I think he was.
He was playing. He was playing okay.
I think he was.
Croc, you know you a little too nice. I'm gonna give it to you. You just got the bag, my nigga. Oh, pardon me, my bad. You know I'm a New Yorker. You just got the bag. You held out. You missed training camp. You missed the off season to get the bag. Ain't no way you supposed to come in playing nothing less than great. I don't even care if you played all pro. You just come in playing great. He wasn't. And then he had the nerve to, and other players, the system, and then we're not allowed to Now we gave Brock leeway, saying, yeah, he's gonna make mistakes, he's new, he's rookie, Steve Wilks it's not his system. First year, new D coordinator, new players, called for his head. He made that one all-out blitz, and it was like, yep, he's the reason. If we don't win a Super Bowl.
An all-out blitz that was a wild play call. It was like me as a guy that, I coached DBs in high school. I actually got offered a head coach job at a high school to run the entire program. Not the right time, though, so I'm not doing it. But as somebody that's a high school DB coach and 7-on-7 defensive coordinator, I wouldn't have never, well, you can't do it in 7-on-7, but I would have never called that. But I will say, the ball did hit his corner in the chest.
And if he holds on to it, it's a pick six.
I don't know about pick six, but if he holds on to it, they ain't scoring. That's for damn sure. All right, so that was tough. But Mr. Blue Magic, I got to get to the next caller.
So hold on. So this is why I said he's the unsung hero, and he should get the credit for it. Because Croc, if we go down 14-0, the game plan truly changes. And now Kyle has no choice but to lean way more so on trying to win the game on Brock's arm. And that's putting a lot of pressure on him in an already high pressure situation. Steve Wilks, you beat the Eagles. Debo, you finished them off.
He did.
Black Air Force One energy. Brooklyn, we out.
All right.
All right.
I'm about to go give me some Black Air Force Ones.
That was good.
The postseason.
Was it Nick Bosa talking about how selfless the defense was in this game against the Eagles? Because it was fascinating. I saw this happen with Buffalo's defense when they played the Eagles the week before. They really just kind of kept him in the pocket. So they gave him the time in the pocket, which made, it was great that our secondary showed up and was able to cover because they didn't want him to escape. And even when they did kind of push it and forced him out, they had somebody, I think it was, one of the linebackers would come in and swoop him up, and the pressures were there. They were more talking about how selfless it was because people didn't go for the sacks. They weren't going for that glory. They were going for the pressures and keeping it contained as a group. So well done. That's why I think that's going to be the key to victory against Baltimore too.
We got Michael in the chat, and he says it's hard to get sacks when you give 10 yards off the ball consistently like he had the secondary for the first 8 weeks. You know what? They actually played a lot. Here's the thing, right? You hear two different sides of this, and it's very contradicting, all right? One side of things, Richard Sherman said 49ers are playing too much man press. And early downs, they need to play more off and then maybe be aggressive on third down. But then you got other side of people saying, they were playing too soft all the time. So which one is it? Is Richard Sherman right for saying that they were too aggressive in early downs, or are the fans right who are saying, oh, they're too soft all the time? I don't know the answer because I don't even know. I'm conflicted as well because I don't know who do I either believe. I think this is what it is. At the end of the day, football is all about the Jimmies and the Joes. All right. And the X's and O's matter to a certain extent. But the Jimmies and the Joes, you guys got to make plays. And through the first 5 weeks, there were several times where they were mixing it up. They were doing like I felt like the 49ers played more man press against the Dallas Cowboys than I've ever seen them play. And they shut them down. And nobody had any issues.
Yeah.
And nobody had any issues with the scheme. And nobody had talked about the pass rush tied to the back end. I didn't hear that. You know what I'm saying? So ultimately, what I got to is I'm not going to actually say what I really want to say. But Chris Wilks has done a terrific job. And through however many games, weeks, or whatever, 49ers likely have still either number 1 or number 2 scoring defense in the league, which they have for the first 5 weeks, which they have really through the first 6 weeks, which only maybe weren't number 1 or number 2 for maybe like a week because of the team that gave up 31 points. And I always thought that was BS, the way that Wilks got drugged for that. Like, that's your worst game. Your worst game coaching for the 49ers, you gave up 31 and everybody said fire him. And I was very disappointed with the fan base. I was very disappointed with Kyle Shanahan for throwing the bus with certain things. Listen, if that's what you do, cool. But like, let's look at you, bro, in the 17 points game in 3 straight games.
Yeah,
like you got to be able to do more than that. I made a big issue. I had a big issue with that, and I felt like I was alone, like I was on this island.
No,
and I was on this island, like talking about how, like at some point, because the defense does their thing.
Yeah,
they have, but they were in a little rut. And it's like, bro, you can't pick them up, but your way to fix this is, oh, we're gonna bring him down to the field. Like, here's the issue. I had an issue with that, but Wilks has been terrific, in my opinion, throughout this year. He had a couple games that were not good at all, and the offense did not help him.
Right.
So, let's get off.
I think it's patience. People want immediate results. He's a new coach entering into all new players. I mean, it takes time for that to brew and get to a level where they understand each other. I mean, it's you got to understand what the coach wants, the execution, all of that. I mean, it takes time.
And here's the thing: in those games where they were playing their worst football, they gave the offense multiple chances. Like, all right, like the game we're not giving up 40, right? And even in the 30-point game, before they scored 30, remember, against the Bengals, 49ers got stops. Like, look, we're not playing good. We gave up 20 straight completions at one point or whatever it was to the Bengals. But ultimately, when you needed that opportunity to be able to, like, hey, we got these stops now. They got multiple stops in a row against the Vikings. We're giving you an opportunity. Yes, we didn't play great. We're giving you an opportunity. And the offense couldn't come through. So I'm going to get off that because clearly I get worked up because I just thought, like, I was like, this is wild the way they're talking about Wilks. All right, I'm going to bring on 2 guys at one time. To close out this show. Roscoe's had some stuff on his mind last game, and he told everybody how he felt about their takes, and he called them casuals. Coach Desi, I saw you earlier. You said no casuals in this chat. All right, but we're bringing up Chris. But I did see Eric's comment on Twitter, Eric with a K, Eric Dane. He commented, and he said, Croc, love the show, blah, blah. I think it was unfair that we didn't get a chance to come on and defend ourselves against Chris. So Chris is calling in. Okay. Eric is calling in. And I want to start with Eric because Eric needs to be able to respond to Chris. All right. So I don't want this to turn into the Jerry Springer show, but I would like for y'all to, have a conversation. Okay. So go ahead, E.
All right. No, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on. So I went back and I rewatched the original show where we were talking about it. I think our disagreement was kind of blown out of proportion a little bit. It seemed like we were kind of closer than I think that it seemed like at the time, because I went back and Mr. Roscoe himself said, I'm not saying the Eagles have a bad team, which was what I was saying was like, listen, their defense might be bad, but they don't have a bad team. So I think, like, I never said they had a good defense. My whole point was that they were still winning games despite having a bad defense. That's something you got to watch out for. You can't take a team lightly if they keep finding ways to win at the end. So I just think that it was the difference of opinion might have been overstated. I wasn't saying that the Eagles were a better team than the 49ers. I certainly didn't pick the Eagles to win that game. My whole point was that, yeah, their secondary isn't that great. I actually think their linebackers are even worse than their secondary. I think that was the big weakness in this game because they kept hitting Debo and, other players these little screens, and the linebackers nowhere to be found. So, yeah, Debo was getting into the secondary, but that's because there were no linebackers in the way to stop him from getting in the secondary. So about the disagreement we had the other day, I just think it was a little bit blown out of proportion. I think might have overestimated the difference of opinion because Mr. Roscoe did say that the Eagles have a good team, which is the point I was trying to make. And he did say that they have a bad defense, which I never disagreed that they have a bad defense. My point was just like, if you give up 30 points and you score 31, you win the game. At that point, it doesn't really matter if you have a bad defense. If you score more than your opponents, then my point was that they were 10-1, so the bad defense isn't stopping them from winning. So I just think it might have been a little blown out of proportion. I definitely understand where he was coming from. I never said they had a great defense. I think they have a good defensive line. I think their linebackers are some of the worst in the NFL. That's obviously why they signed Shaquille Leonard. They obviously don't think their linebackers are great. The 49ers didn't try to sign Shaquille Leonard because they have Jerry Greenlaw and Fred Warner. Shaquille Leonard probably wouldn't even start over Demetrius Flanagan-Foles on our team. So, yeah, I think that the Eagles in the linebacking core and the secondary aren't that great. I still think they have a good defensive line. And we've seen a lot of times in the NFL, a good defensive line can make up for those weaknesses in the secondary. If you can get pressure in a few seconds, you don't need to cover for more than like 2 or 3 seconds. But, that's all I wanted to say. I just think that, I think that we see eye to eye more than it seemed at the time. It just seemed like those small differences of opinions, we kind of like increased them and made them seem like they were bigger differences of opinions.
Chris, do you agree with what Eric Whitaker just said?
Well said. Well said.
Thank you.
I don't have nothing to say about that. But anyways,
so
is he still a
this
casual?
isn't going to be Jerry Springer.
Is he still a casual?
Not going to be a Jerry Springer.
No, he's not a casual. Only Case 49 is a casual. Hey, but hey,
I think that was the other thing too, because I came on after him and I said something like, "Oh, I kind of agree with most of what this guy said," and I think he kind of like painted me with that brush as to what the other guy was saying. But like, I would just like for my own comments to stand on their own. I'm not trying to like take ownership of what other people say. You know what I mean? So I think that might have been, I might have gotten lumped in with him a little bit. Like, I wasn't trying to knock the 49ers. I'm obviously a 49ers fan. I got faith in the team, and I think they're a really good team. My point was just, if the Eagles are any team that's 10-1, not just the Eagles, if the Lions were 10-1, if the Cardinals were 10-1 right now, I'd say, listen, they keep finding a way to win. They gotta take them seriously.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything he said.
And another thing I wanted to mention, I actually mentioned this before the season even started. I was on Wayne Breezy's show. We were talking about the 49ers. And one of the things I said about the Eagles at the time was that I thought they were really going to miss Miles Sanders as the year went on. I thought Miles Sanders was a guy nobody was really talking about. I think he was really important to the Eagles offense to be able to set up that play action. And, it's almost like with the 49ers. When you can establish the run with Christian McCaffrey, it forces everybody else to come up to the line of scrimmage. That creates openings for you to beat them over the top. So I was saying I think the Eagles are going to be a little bit weaker than they were last year, not just because of the defense, because their secondary, it's the same secondary as last year. They weren't a great secondary last year either. But I thought the loss of Miles Sanders was going to be, a real vulnerability for the Eagles this year. And I think, in the game against the Niners, I think that was like one of the big reasons that the Eagles offense, I mean, they seem like they just gave up on the run. They just stopped trying to run the ball at one point. And, they were up like 6-0. They weren't even trying to run the ball. Like, they tried running the ball in the first couple of drives. It didn't work. And they were like, all right, we can't run the ball today. Let's just give up. Well, yeah, because you don't have Miles Sanders anymore. Like, Miles Sanders was a good player. I like DeAndre Swift. I don't think he's as good as Miles Sanders. So I think that was another area where the 49ers had a huge advantage in this game, was they were able to continue running the ball. They couldn't just, the Eagles defense couldn't just ignore Christian McCaffrey. Whereas, once the Eagles stopped running the ball, okay, well, that's great. Now Fred Warner doesn't need to track your running back. Now he can spy Jalen Hurts. Now you got, it's just another it takes options away. It makes them way more predictable. It makes them a lot easier to defend. You saw AJ Brown was doing well on the first couple drives. Then after that, not much. Charvarius Ward did a good job shutting them down. And without the ability, if you can take away a couple of those things, that's when the offense needs to be able to say, okay, the passing game ain't working right now. We need to be able to run the ball. The Eagles couldn't do that because they didn't have Miles Sanders. So I think that's a loss they're going to feel for the rest of the season. I think when it comes down to these close playoff games, especially if you get a lead in the playoffs, you want to be able to run the ball. You want to be able to salt that game away. You want to be able to burn the clock, keep the defense off the field, let your defense rest. If the Eagles can't run the ball, that's going to be a big disadvantage for them. And now the NFC isn't exactly stacked. They could probably beat the Cowboys in the playoffs. They could probably beat the Lions in the playoffs. But when they come up against the 49ers, these are the kind of weaknesses that are going to get those weaknesses are going to get highlighted.
Okay, hold on. Because we never got to get anything from Roscoe. So Chris, go.
Oh
go
yeah,
ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Jesus. What's up, Croc? Hey, first off, Croc, you were not alone when you were talking about the whole Steve Wilks thing. I think me and you agreed big time when it came to that. I said it in my spaces a million times. I even hit certain content creators up because I felt like they were over criticizing Steve Wilks. And I even brought up how sometimes it's unconscious. They're not thinking about it, but it's like, this is how, a lot of black coaches faces a lot of criticism. And again, it's not intentional, but it's unconscious. Meanwhile, the coach on the other side, his offense is not producing, is fumbling, turning over the ball in crunch time. And then ultimately I wanted to get to the whole Brock not playing well without his weapons, which you actually pointed out. Nah, he actually played well without his weapons. Against the Bengals, he had over 400 yards of offense. He was having an elite game. It was just crunch time. He turned the ball over twice. He was having a very good game, very efficient game against the Vikings. Well,
Three
he turned
times.
the ball over twice.
Three times.
Oh yeah, 3 times against the Bengals. So it's stuff like that where it's like, okay, I understand what whoever that person was said, trying to make an argument against Brock Purdy, but it's like, you gotta watch the games. I mean, putting up over 400 yards of offense, which you ran for I think you ran for 50 or 60, threw for 360, 370 against the Bengals. And Brock had some throws, man. I was just like, dang, bro.
The interesting thing, because Peacock and I in that moment, there were a lot of people that were really getting on Brock, and I'm like, they were like, he's finally he's come down to earth. Now we're seeing the real Brock, my brother and them included. And I'm like, no, he's playing exactly the same as he's always played, which is good. It's just these moments, he, we needed him to come through in these moments, and he didn't do that. But I didn't think all of a sudden he's just less accurate or less efficient. If you look at the numbers on those games, it probably aligns with a lot of other Brock that you've seen.
Yep.
The biggest issue in those games, really that 3-game run, he turned the ball over more than he typically does.
Yep.
And why did he turn the ball over more? Now that's the part. Now in the Vikings game, we could say it was the concussion, but is he pressing more in those moments? And that's something, again, I did not care. Everybody loses games. It wasn't even so much about the actual loss. It was more so to me about the opportunity and the moment and needing to see how they perform in that, right? And instead of just saying you know what, hey man, Brock, you can't turn the ball over in those moments. Instead of saying that, they blamed Wilks and said he needs to be fired and he needs to come down to the field. I always thought that was wild. No, your quarterback who played well most of these games, he turned the ball over multiple times late. That's what
and let me touch on that crap. I mean, ultimately, Brock from last year up until that point, man, the dang near was having a good game every single game. But we know this thing called reality is you're gonna have your down moments. And Brock being a young quarterback is going to show young quarterback moments. And in those couple of games, he showed young quarterback moments. With those 4 interceptions, I chalked most of them up to bad decision making. And he had his moment. We move on. I think Brock has gotten better. I think situations that they haven't been exactly what we wanted, but there are situations where I felt things were looking to were starting to look imperfect, where Brock helped lead us to score. I thought things were getting a little, like in Croc's words, a little weird against Seattle. Niners came down, scored. Brock threw a nice dot. I think the first 2 drives on this game, Niners being down 6-0, things was looking a little weird. Brock stayed, which he is always is. He stayed poised, and y'all see the end result. So, I mean, Brock was young. He has to go through some growth spurts, and also, and this is my last comment. I'm transitioning into Blue Magic's comment about the Niners overlooking teams. At the end of the day, I'm glad we lost those 3 games. We needed to lose those 3 games. We needed to be humbled. And I just want to leave it here and shout out to, our leader, the voice of the team, Fred Warner. He said beating Philly is meaningful, but we have to remain focused on the ultimate goal. To win in that fashion, that solidifies everything that you know about yourself and your team and what you're capable of. Now, the part that's hard is to look yourself in the mirror and be like, hey, that wasn't the Super Bowl. That's not the playoffs. We still have room to grow. We have to make sure we're ascending at the right time and we're getting better and staying humble, chopping wood, carrying water. That's the mindset right there. Fred Warner talked about it after the games. He said, listen, one game at a time. Let's not look ahead. So I don't have no worries about this team overlooking any team, because at the end of the day, they know what they're trying to play for, which is the number 1 seed, and they know they had that 3-game stumbling block, and they know they can't have no slip-ups now. That's all I want to say. Y'all have a good one.
All right. Appreciate you, Roscoe, and appreciate you too, Eric. Thanks for coming on.
Actually, Croc, can I have another 30 seconds to say one last thing before I go?
All right, now when you say 30 seconds, do you mean like 30 seconds, or like?
Well, 30 seconds for me is like a minute for other people. So can I have a minute?
Okay, go ahead.
I'll be honest about it. All right. As Keeper said, we got to make sure not to look ahead. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'd like to actually look ahead real quick at the schedule. The fight for the 1 seed. If you look at the schedules, I think it's going to come down to 2 games. Cowboys versus Eagles this week and the 49ers versus Ravens on Christmas. The Cowboys are not getting the 1 seed. Cowboys still play the Eagles, the Dolphins, the Lions, and the Bills. Cowboys are not getting the 1 seed no matter what happens. The Lions have to play the Cowboys, and they also have 2 games against the Vikings. I think the Lions are going to lose one of those games. I think it's going to. Now, the Eagles' schedule is pretty light except for the Cowboys game. 49ers' schedule is pretty light except for the Ravens game. They still play the Cardinals and the Rams. They've beaten both those teams already this year. So I think if the 49ers can beat the Ravens on Christmas, they have a very good chance of the 1 seed. But they need the Cowboys to beat the Eagles this week, because after this, the Eagles' schedule is pretty light. If the Cowboys beat the Eagles, it's perfect, because there's no way that they're going to beat the Dolphins, the Bills, and the Lions to end the season. So they both knock each other down a peg. That's all I wanted to say. It was just looking forward to the fight for the 1 seed. I think it'd be good to get the 1 seed, get that first round bye. One last game to play, any given Sunday. You don't have to worry about, a team getting hot on you on, divisional weekend or anything like that. So.
I think the biggest thing, when you look at the schedule is you 1,000% need Dallas to beat Philly. We are Cowboy fans this weekend, all right? And that is hard. That's tough, right? We are Cowboy fans this weekend, and if the Cowboys can knock off Philly, then from there, 49ers, you control your own destiny. And that's how I would look at it.
And it's in Dallas.
We can look at these different things, but like if the Cowboys win, 49ers now, you control your own destiny in trying to get that number 1 seed. But all right, appreciate you coming on, E.
All right, thanks, Croc. Have a nice day.
All right. I did have 2 things start that I kind of want to touch on real quick. Well, first, this one. We got Kenneth in the chat. Might be a troll. Not sure. All right, but he says, Purdy getting humbled in the playoffs. And I thought Symmetry 7 had the most amazing comeback to that. He says, you can't humble the humble beast. And I loved it. That was a great one. I
Drop.
saw that one. I was like, yeah. All right. So there's that. And then we have Justin here, and he says, even the best and most experienced quarterbacks have bad games, though. Here's a statistical tidbit, and he showed a stat. For me, it has never been about Brock having a bad game. It's always about if the game gets tight, Brock, this year, because of what the 49ers expectations are, how do you perform in that moment? And so far, he has turned the ball over. And the 49ers
And
lost.
that's where I think that's
Except for the Browns game. But then you missed the field goal. But go ahead.
Yeah, and then that's what stood out to me in those games was that's uncharacteristic of him. He usually is a good protector of the ball. So when he made these decisions and was like, I'm not sure, I'm just thinking of the one, I can't remember which game it was, maybe it was Minnesota. We were in red zone, he's scrambling out right, he's getting tackled, and he's on his way down to the ground and he throws the ball. Like, I've never seen Brock do that before. If that, in the little bit of games that we've seen leading up to that, he would tuck that in, protect the ball. That's it. You know, they're still in red zone opportunity. We could still kick a field goal if we needed to. And I can't remember what down that was on, but that's the uncharacteristicness that I saw in those two games that led me to think maybe there's residual from the concussion in those situations. It's not the accuracy because it's planned. He can process it. It's now pressure running and making a quick decision at that point. Is there just a little residual there that's causing that? Because that leading up to that, we've and I think even you have praised him for protecting the ball, being a good protector.
Yeah.
So that's what was uncharacteristic in those two games. But I still think the kid's built different. And he's shown some good stuff even in the postseason last year. So I have no qualms about what his capabilities are moving forward.
We got Nees in the chat, and Nees says, wasn't the game tight after the Eagles scored a touchdown? Brock made a third down, and they had to do that to kill momentum, and he did a terrific job with that. To me, it's that game where you're down for because I don't know how many different ways I can say this. The goal for the 49ers is Super Bowl.
Yes.
And we've seen the 49ers in these situations, whether they jump out to a lead or maybe like, okay, we got to come from behind. We need that drive, right? Like that moment, like it's that moment. I'm talking about late in the game.
Yeah.
And it's like, you got to have it because that's what it's going to take to win a Super Bowl. If it was just a normal situation and Brock was quarterbacking the Detroit Lions, which they're hoping that, hey, man, we hope we can make a run, right? Then maybe it wouldn't be that important for me to see something like that. But the 49ers, and every fan in here will tell you this, their expectations is Super Bowl or bust, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I know that's tough. Like one team wins the Super Bowl, 49ers haven't won one since 94. All right, but it's Super Bowl or bust in the sense of like, that's how good this team is. So for me, I just look for these little things that show me that in any situation, they can pull it out and win.
Yeah.
All right. And that one situation that I'm looking for that gives them that final infinity stone, right? Because the best team, can play all great offense, infinity stone, can play great defense, infinity stone, can blow teams out, infinity stone, can, get dirty, run game, pass game. Like you have all these different ways. But that one last thing is, can you show that, hey, we are down 4 and there's 4 minutes left and we got to drive the field and we got to score a touchdown to win. Or we're down 2 and we got to drive the field, kick a field goal, win the game. Can we pull out the victory?
Yeah.
And we've had 3 opportunities for that specific situation, like very specific, but 3 games in a row, you had that opportunity, that situation, and you fell short all 3 times. So for me, it's just, that's the one thing. If you want to blow everybody out, blow everybody out. But I assume when it comes to the postseason and it starts being really good on really good, and maybe you turn the ball over and maybe you throw a pick 6. We saw that against the Seahawks and it didn't really matter because you blown them out. But like you have these moments where it's like it's tight. Like, dude,
That's what makes the best games. That's what make the great.
And I actually enjoy those games
Absolutely.
most. But in that moment, can you just show me that you come out with a W? And so far, they haven't. So it's not even so much about all quarterbacks have a bad game. Whatever. That's not my issue. I know who Brock is. It's not even about like he played this team close and they're not that good. It's just about in this moment that I feel like you're most likely going to come across to win a game. Can you pull it out in the postseason? And if you can, all right. But just show me, because I've seen 3 games now where you fell short when you got tasked with that situation, and it was 3 games in a row. So that's it. That's it. It's not me saying that he's not allowed to have a bad game or a poor game. No, he didn't play. I thought he played very bad against Cleveland and still gave us an opportunity to win, and then we didn't. The kicker missed, but it's still part of our team.
Yeah.
So I just need to see that, and that's it. That I see that, and I'm good. Until then, I will be on edge because I can go off of is what we've experienced with this team this year, and that in that moment you fell short every time.
Yeah. No, I get that. That's what make the greats great. I mean, that's the legend of Joe Montana, right? That was who he was. He could you knew if it was clutch, 30 seconds left on the clock, you got to take the team downfield to win the game. You knew Joe could do it. Like, you've seen the evidence there. So I get that.
He said kicker miss is not on Brock. I just said that's not. I'm not talking about Brock. I am talking about the team.
Yeah.
They got to show me. This is not a Brock thing. I mean, Brock is the quarterback, so people are going to view him.
Yeah.
And I said, like, he did not play well against Cleveland, but then he gave you opportunity, and the kicker missed.
Yeah. I like what David says here.
David says, can we maybe attribute late game struggles to Kyle? I mean, he hasn't won much with any of the QBs. Kyle attacks the middle of the field, and so that's where Brock goes with the ball. We all know Kyle goes pass heavy behind.
That's interesting.
I think that I think this. I think Kyle has his scheme and his concepts and how he sees the game. And I think based on that, he presents these are plays and whatever. The answers to whatever the defense is showing you is in this play call. And I think that each quarterback that he's had comes to the conclusion on the answer differently, with where they typically attack, levels of the field. There are certain staples that we'll see. All right. And again, I ain't no offensive schematic guru or anything like that. So you could take this with a grain of salt. But just what I've seen and what I've noticed from him and the things that he likes to do, the answers are there. But I've noticed that all the quarterbacks he's had win in different areas, or they just see the field a little different. It feels like Brock sees the field the most like Kyle, which is why we've seen a different level of success. Now, Jimmy had a certain level of success as well. He saw this area of the field, and he was highly efficient there, but it was dangerous as hell. I think Brock throws outside the numbers, the hashes, all that, far more. Again, how it feels, far more than what I saw Brock. So I wouldn't necessarily say that that's just, attacking the middle of the field, and that's where Brock, there are certain things. I think his philosophy is, hey, I'm going to put these linebackers and safeties in conflict and coverage. And they live in the middle of the field. So I'm going to do this, get this guy to move, and then boom. If you hit it with timing and rhythm right behind this linebacker, there's going to be this window. Just trust the window's going to be there, throw it. And you'll have a big gain and a big run after catch. When people start to attribute Brock's success to, run after catch and all that, I think that's what they're talking about. But it's that's kind of built in to the scheme. It's not, and this is what we talked about with Dak earlier, with Dak fitting it. No, Dak, it's kind of more spread out, and it's these different type of reads, where it's just stop routes, this and that, and it's a little bit more spread out. It's a little, probably a little easier on the quarterback if you don't necessarily trust exactly what you're seeing, I think his is easier. With Kyle, I think you have to kind of really trust what you're seeing and trust that Kyle is going to put you in the right situation. And then if he does, then boom, I can execute, and you have Brock executing at a high level, and he does those things. So I know I'm kind of talking in circles here, but ultimately, I think that's a long-winded way of saying I agree but disagree. If you do want to put on Kyle, I think the part that we put on Kyle is the way, and I saw somebody say this earlier in the chat, the way that Kyle has built this team and the way that he's kind of built his scheme and his concept is a team that can pour it on you. But when they are behind, it's not an offense that can play fast. And there was no better example of this than the 49ers playing against Atlanta last year. In Atlanta, the game Coach Desi and I were at, and they were down 2 touchdowns, and they were playing so slow. I mean, it was like 9 minutes left in the game. You need 2 touchdowns to come back, and they played so slow.
Yeah.
And I think it was kind of like he just has to play like that. Unless one of those guys catch it and run for 80, it's kind of like this like methodical thing, and that's just his offense. So I definitely don't want to see them go down to anything like that, ideally. But I think that's where if there is a struggle, it's, hey man, can you get these motherfuckers to play fast a little bit sometimes? And that's not their thing. That's not their thing. So I heard Kirk Benkert, that quarterback, he was with the 49ers a little bit on the practice squad. And Kirk has said that Kirk said they don't even really practice like 2 minute, which I don't know. I've seen them practice 2 minute training camp, but maybe they do something different during the regular season. But they don't even practice going fast because they just feel like that's not the game that they're going to be playing. So interesting stuff. I don't know. Maybe Kyle is to blame, but I think ultimately execute. Maybe you don't have any of these issues. Appreciate the contribution, D. All right. Anything in closing, Coach? We've been on here for almost an hour and a half now.
No, you guys are my family. I love interacting with the faithful. Man, I've been saying it since day one. This is our year. Nothing's going to stop this train. We're on a roll, and we're just going to keep it rolling.
All right. And of course, like always, I appreciate everybody that tuned into the show. On your way out, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm about to start dropping more content. So what I am going to do is Monday through Thursday now, I think I'm going to be doing shows, and I'll be cutting up these segments again, posting different segments so we can kind of chop these up. I'll start doing that next week. But I appreciate everyone that contributes to the show, all the callers that come on. I love the insight. I wish more of y'all. I saw somebody like, it was always the same 4 people. Why don't you bring your ass up here then and talk?
Where's
so
the
it's not the same 4 people.
Where's the ladies at? Let's get the ladies on here.
Where are the ladies? We be having like Bree Marie in the chat. Bree Marie, bring your ass on here too. All right. Appreciate everybody. Love y'all. Like button, subscribe button, Underdog Fantasy, promo code Crocky, and I'll see y'all next week. Peace.